Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 5, Episodes 1 and 2 of FX's Fargo. So, it's been nearly 3 years to the day since the finale of the controversial 4th season. I didn't hate it. A lot of people were not fans, but I enjoyed it for the most part. It was probably the least of the 4, but I enjoyed it, and it introduced me to the actor who I was about to say that I ended up really enjoying on Gamora, but I feel like I'm full of shit now since I can't remember his name. But it did introduce me to this actor from Gamora, and it through that means it introduced me to the show Gamora, which is now one of my all-time favorite shows. So I will always love Fargo Season 4 for that. But it now returns for its 5th season, and I was really excited for this one. I've loved Fargo. I thought Season 1 and 2 were incredible. And even though Season 3 and 4 kind of get a little bit of, I think, unfair criticism, they were less than the first two, but still, I think, enjoyable seasons of television, especially when put up against a lot of the other shit that comes out nowadays. But I think we're all in agreement that 2023 has not been the best year for TV, not as great as 2022 was. And I was really hoping Fargo could arrive at the end of the year and inject some of that like cute and folksy uber violence that borders on the supernatural into 2023. So I don't know how supernatural this show is going to get, but I can already tell that we're going to be getting classic Fargo, and that it's probably going to make a hard year-end push to crash land in my top 10. So I thought this was an incredibly strong 2-episode premiere, and strong in every way. Like, it set up a compelling story with unique and interesting characters. It established a tone that is decidedly classic Fargo. It looked amazing. The performances were superb. Like, there's not really much to complain about here, so let's just get into talking about these first two real quick. Actually, before I proceed with that, I want to say up front, too, if you're new to this channel and maybe you've watched a couple of my other videos, you're like, yo, I gotta fuck with this guy, or this is the first time you're seeing me, I do want to lay out up front, I'm getting this video out really fucking late. Episode 3 airs tonight, but I intend on watching episode 3 live when it airs, or worst case scenario later tonight, like midnight-ish, something like that. And I expect to get my episode 3 video up Wednesday evening, around the time that I'm getting this one up, consistently throughout the rest of the season. So even though this one is late by nearly 7 full days, I don't expect any of the rest of them to be late. Expect these to be popping up Wednesday evening. All right, so getting back to the episode, this season looks to be led by Juno Temple and John Hamm, playing Dorothy Lyon and Roy Tillman, respectively. My experience with Juno Temple is limited to Ted Lasso, which I think a lot of people's experience with her might be limited to that. She's done obviously more work than that, but that's really all I've seen her in, and I love her in that. But she's also doing an outstanding job here in these first 2 episodes. Like, I love how even when she's being like the Minnesota Nice that we see on the title card to open this episode, on the outside, on her exterior, she still also simultaneously conveys a very dark history, a buried past that I'm sure as this comes to light, it's going to be probably some crazy Fargo level type shit. But she's doing a great job of conveying that not outwardly or obviously, but it's like it's beneath the surface here. Like there's a great scene in episode 2 where her mother-in-law, who's played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, and who's also doing a great job of being a deliciously unlikable person, her mother-in-law threatens her. And then Dot completely switches off the Minnesota Nice, out-threatens her back, and then instantly turns the Minnesota Nice back on, and that made her threat even scarier. Like, even the mother-in-law, who they'd already by that point gone to great lengths to establish as a badass, even the mother-in-law was kind of reduced to like the SpongeBob, like, all right, I'm gonna head out kind of meme. Like, she's like, yeah, on that note, Danish, let's go ahead and get the fuck out of here. But more on Danish later. She was not talking to a pastry. Oh, and Dot also seems to have a possibly quite unhealthy past with Bisquick. I don't know what that's about yet, but it seems very triggering for her. And I think she also it's also probably deeply connected in a way more than just, I always made breakfast when I was married to Roy, like, and I always made biscuit. I think there's something more than that. Like, there's probably some trauma or some shit tied to it. I don't know, but they're really leaning into this Bisquick thing, and I'm looking forward to finding out what that's about. Lastly, about Dot, I absolutely love her commitment to the lie. Like, after she escapes being kidnapped, she returns home, and despite all the evidence that she was violently kidnapped, like blood everywhere, a burnt mask, blood on her feet, she's like, no, it didn't happen. And then, like, later she gets mad at her husband Wayne for telling his mom what happened. He's like, bitch, she was abducted. What was I supposed to do? And she, of course I was gonna tell her. And Dot's like, no, I wasn't. I just thought that was funny. Like Shaggy would be proud that she would deny something. It's such, in the face of such overwhelming evidence to the contrary. She was, her only defense is like, nah, it wasn't me. Like, that didn't happen. I love it. And John Hamm, is this like Don Draper if Don Draper existed in 2023? I know a lot of people are gonna compare the Roy Tillman character to Trump, and there's a great deal of stuff that we see in these first 2 episodes that I think are meant to tie together the show with the current state of affairs in this country. But there is very much a lot of Trump in this character, but it also kind of feels like not Don Draper in 2023, but what Don Draper would be like in 2023, like a man's man. Like, he'll choke you, or have his man do it, choke you for putting your hands on your wife, but only if you didn't do it for the right reasons. And then he's gonna encourage her to consistently give you head to make sure it doesn't happen again. Like, that's the kind of guy that we're dealing with here. Hamm's Roy Tillman, he's just like he's dastardly. I think it's the best way to put him. Like, he unabashedly, like, steps out of his outdoor tub, dick first, to call one of the cops who's named Joaquin, call him Jaqueen, and then talk about how he enforces right and wrong, and the law ain't got shit to do with it. Like, I just know this character is going to be a joy every time we see him on screen. Also, his son is played by Joe Keery, who is best known as being Steve Harrington on Stranger Things. And he is also great in that kind of, like, doing a great job of playing an obnoxious character, same as Jennifer Jason Leigh is doing, but he's a lot more in line with, like, Fargo's version of Joffrey Baratheon than anything else, and I don't hate it. Like, I'm liking this for him. I think he's gonna be another kind of, like, deliciously evil character that we're gonna love to hate. I was concerned that he was gonna die multiple times in the second episode, and I was glad he didn't, because I'm like, I'm gonna enjoy hating this guy for this entire season. All right, so let's talk about these episodes real quick. The first episode opens at a school board meeting that's turned into a full-on riot. We meet Juno Temple's Dot in these scenes as she gets arrested for accidentally tasing a cop. And this seemingly meaningless event sets off a chain of events that's going to drive not just these first 2 episodes, but the season as a whole, probably. So once Dot's prints end up in the system after she gets arrested, she's discovered by John Hamm's Roy Tillman, who is apparently a husband of hers. And I'm not gonna say former husband, because he doesn't say, like, that's my wife, that's my ex-wife. He said, that's my wife. She might actually still be married to this guy and ran off, but she is or was married to him and ran off to start this new life in Minnesota. We haven't found out precisely why she left yet, but given what we've learned about Roy's views on women, we can make some pretty strong guesses on what married life with him must have been like. There's an interesting scene where Dot's looking at some of her bruises from the kidnapping that didn't happen, and they kind of like overlay scenes of John Hamm looking like, I don't know, looking like a cowboy piece of shit over her, looking at her bruises. And I think we're meant to glean that he probably put some bruises on her as well. So he sends a couple of goons to pick up Dot, but none of these attempts go as expected. Both of these goons, by the way, give they give the same vibes as the goons from the movie. But, which I don't know why their names are escaping me. It was Steve Buscemi's character and the other guy. But none of these attempts to get to kidnap Dot go as expected, and we get to see Dot get increasingly MacGyver-esque in thwarting their attempts. In episode 1, when Dot's initially kidnapped, the goons get pulled over by the police, and of course they're driving a stolen car. Why wouldn't they be? And one of the cops is played by Lamorne Morris, who I called New Girl in my notes for for most of the time until I learned his name is actually Whit Farr. That's Whit with 2 T's and Farr with 2 R's. And obviously a shootout ensues here, and there's this incredibly sick shot. I loved this shot of Whit Farr. He's like hiding behind his open police cruiser, on the passenger side. And there's smoke everywhere from the shootout, from the car, from bullets hitting the car. There's smoke everywhere, and then you got the red and blue lights from the police car. They're like reflecting against the smoke, and like the two goons are kind of like flanking him. They're approaching from either side, and you see like the one, and he's like approaching the car from the opposite side, and there's smoke everywhere, and the red and blue is flashing, and it cuts to Whit, and he's like cowering. You got the red and blue flashing. It reminded me kind of. If you've seen, and I'm sure most of you have, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, there's a great shot where the ring wraiths come into this town. It's early in the movie, and like they come through like this big wooden gate, and there's like a guy who's like scared and he's hiding behind the door, and they show him, and you can see like these javelins or whatever that are lances. I don't fucking know my medieval fucking tools. I don't know, but like the thing they use for jousting. I don't fucking know, but like you can see those things kind of like in the background going past the scared attendant or whatever he was. It kind of reminded me of that shot. Really cool shot. There's another really cool shot in episode 2. It's like a tracking shot that follows John Hamm out of a barn into a shootout in episode 2. I love that shot as well. And that shot also followed a really good scene where the one surviving goon managed to escape inevitable death at the hands of Steve Harrington. But that was a cool scene too, the way he escaped. In case you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it for you, but that was a cool scene. I also like the shot in episode 1 of the same guy. He sees Dot approaching him from behind through a convex mirror that he's using to kind of like look around this grocery store that he's in. Right before she hits him with a shovel. But like, I digress. I don't want to start talking about all the great shots that I love, but the show is shot tremendously. It looks beautiful. Exactly what you would expect from Fargo. So earlier I teased talking about I think he's like their lawyer, Danish. He's played by Dave Foley, and this guy is ridiculous. Like, he's got white hair, he's got the white mustache, a matching white eye patch, ridiculous name. Like, this guy has it all. And there's a great scene where everyone is like having dinner together earlier. I think it's early in the first episode that was fun. He's at the table and he's like being a lawyer in the middle of this dinner. And then later when Wayne, who is he's the husband of Juno Temple's Dot and the son of Jennifer Jason Leigh's I don't know her name. I just call her Wayne's mom. But when Wayne says to her that not everything is about money, she instructs Danish to slap him. Even though that's not the first time I've seen anything like that, it was still, I don't know, it was, it's hard to explain, but to see a guy with white hair and a white mustache and a white eye patch be instructed to slap someone else and do it, it was just deliciously great. You could tell that Danish is going to be a fun one this season. Like I said, he looks like a goddamn Bond villain. You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of, if you guys heard about this, and I'm sure you probably did, when Pete Davidson said that one Congressman, Dan Crenshaw, looked like a hitman in a porno. That has to have inspired the look for Danish, because Danish looks like a hitman in a porno. Lastly, we have the cop who arrested Dot at the school board. She's pregnant, of course. It wouldn't be Fargo without a pregnant cop. But I don't know how this is going to tie into the main story, but her and her husband are falling on hard financial times. Looks like he's blowing money on golf simulators because he considers them to be an investment toward his future pro golf career. The actor who plays the husband, I think he was on the most recent god-awful season of You. Hopefully he can redeem himself in my eyes here. I don't know where this storyline is going. I'm going to trust that it's going to go somewhere interesting. I will say this. I don't golf. I've only golfed one time in my entire life, and it was within the past 5 years. So very, very recent. I was already old when I did it the first time. And I don't know anything about golf. I don't watch it either. But that guy's swing did not make me think of somebody who could be in the PGA. Like, it didn't look right to me. I'll leave the actual assessment of how he's gripping the fucking I don't even know the name of it, the golf club. How he's gripping the golf club to people who are into it like that, but not good. But yeah, like I said, at the top, great start to this season. I'm all in, from the visuals to the tension to the humor to the violence. First 2 episodes set the bar really fucking high. I'm looking forward to seeing what Fargo is putting down this season. I'm going to be watching episode 3 right on time tonight. I'll get my notes together during the day. I'll record this one, just like record that video for episode 3, just like I'm recording this one at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday. I plan on recording for episode 3 at this time tomorrow. So hopefully this one will be up at whatever time this one gets up tonight. So I will see you guys tomorrow for episode 3. And until then, peace.